Anyways, I wanted to ask you, so how'd you get into it? How'd you get into being a cut man to begin with? I'm so curious.
It started. I'm getting old. Actually, is the I guess is how is growing up. My dad was a fireman. My mom worked at a restaurant, and so they had odd hours.
Mm-hmm.
And being little kids, we'd have to go to grandma's house, and it was kind of, yeah, you had two options in your grandma's house. You could sit and watch like Dynasty with grandma, or you can go to like boxing with grandpa, where he's gonna buy you candy and soda and
Mm-hmm.
all the fun stuff. So I'm gonna go to boxing with grandpa, and so then it just kind of became, this is pre. I'm gonna date myself. This was back in the '80s, so MMA wasn't even a thing we'd heard of yet. So you
Yeah.
pretty much you went to karate, kung fu, boxing, or like judo. There was your choices. And I was like, oh, I want to box, and I did a little bit as an amateur. I didn't put in enough work to actually be good. Like, but I still play around at the gym, and then at some point you're just kind of like, my body doesn't react the same way it did, many years ago, and I was like, I'd still like to somehow be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And the wife and I went to a UFC event here in Phoenix. I can't even remember the number, the date. I remember it was Francis Ngannou versus Cain Velasquez was the main
Oh,
event on that one.
damn.
And I was watching these guys, and I was like, I probably can learn how to do that. And just started looking for stuff online, reaching out to people, and it grew from there. And I think I said, I'm going to do this. And a week later, I got a call from somebody. He's like, hey, I'm in a huge emergency. I need somebody right now. Can you be up here in Prescott Valley Friday? And I was like, yeah, I could be there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of grew from there.
Damn, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. I still remember that Ngannou versus Velasquez fight. That was just, I didn't expect it to happen that way because I think it was Kane's knee, it blew out, and then Francis on the
Something,
way
yeah. It
down
was
got him.
it was a weird angle, like from where I was sitting. I'm like, did he fall? Did he get hit? I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't really see till the replay. Yeah, it looked like something kind of maybe gave out a little bit, and he got caught on the way down. It's definitely a fluke thing.
Yeah,
Getting hit by Nagano is like getting hit by a truck, though. It
I
just you don't want
know.
to do it.
I know. He sends you to the fifth dimension with just one punch. You get the uppercut, then you see Jesus for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think I watched a Jackass where he was hitting him in the cup, and I was like, God.
Oh my
I
God,
felt like
that's
he
gonna,
pulled his punches on that too, because he generally looked like, you want me to do what? Like he was like,
yeah. I
I'm not
want
trying
this
to
guy to
kill
still have
anybody today.
kids.
Yeah.
Damn,
I
that's
wonder if those
incredible.
guys can have kids after all those years.
I forget the one dude's name, but he's the one that on the newest Jackass, he just had like the little mohawk. I forget his name, but it's like he gets the worst of the damage, and they always go for the crotch shots with him. I
Yeah.
guarantee he will not have kids at all in the
Yeah.
future. Oh my God. But yeah, no, so that's how you originally kind of got into it and you started reaching out, and then it branched off to where you had the opportunity in Prescott Valley. So were you originally intending to be a cut man getting into it, or did you originally start off on a different area?
I started off with boxing, and you know, um, it was a different world back in even in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Where like you would make friends, and like, oh, I train at this school and we do karate, and I train at this school, we do kung fu, and we'd get together and show each other things and spar and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
like the idea of ground fighting just never occurred to us. And then I believe it was in Black Belt magazine, we saw an ad for the first UFC, and we thought this was going to be like pro wrestling.
Oh.
The way it was marketed, we thought it was going to be like hey, we're pro wrestling, like WWE, WCW type thing. So we got the pay-per-view, and that first fight, he kicked his tooth out. We're like, well, what the hell is this? And then, all right, that's cool. And then we saw Hoist, and here's this little guy in a gi on his back, and we're like, why would you be on your back? And he's submitting people and choking people, and we're like, what the hell is this stuff? We'd never heard of jujitsu before, and
Mm-hmm.
it was completely like blew our minds. We're like, wait a minute, you could fight off your back, and at that time where we're at, there was no jujitsu schools around us. So we were,
Yeah.
rewatching what he was doing and trying it, and we were probably terrible. I mean, we were probably absolutely horrible. Just the little nuances that you get with having a coach or like a good instructable, and you know, we're trying to do arm bars. I don't think we ever did one right. Like, and yeah, and then I went off to the army. I boxed a little bit there, like and then, yeah, I got out, and I just kept wanting to somehow keep involved with the sport. I know,
Mhm.
even to this, people are like, hey, you should try to be a judge. You should try to be a referee. And I'm like, nah, you guys piss everybody off. Nobody's ever mad at me. Nobody gets mad at the cut, man. But
Exactly.
like referees, judges, even when you're right, you're gonna make somebody mad. So I don't want to be that
Exactly.
guy.
You don't want to be the half-hated man that's walking
Yeah,
in. It's like, oh crap, I make one bad call and shit, the audience is coming
and
after me. You
they
see
got a
cups
tough job.
flying. Yeah.
I mean, especially being that close and seeing how the referees work. I mean, they have fractions of a second between
Hmm.
an early stoppage or a late stoppage, and I just wouldn't want that stress on me.
Yeah,
it's
it's
nice. I
definitely
love what I
tough.
do. I love what I do. It's great. Wrapping hands is probably my favorite part, because that's, for a lot of guys, that's the moment that like it becomes real for them.
Yeah.
Is when they're sitting down, getting the hands wrapped, and the inspector's there, and you get to just see a lot of cool personalities. It runs the gambit from some guys just go stone cold stoic, like other guys that just they get their stress out and they just don't make jokes the whole time and
Hmm.
crack me up. So it's
Yeah,
fun.
that's awesome. And so, with being a cut man, what steps did you have to go in order to secure that position? Like, I'm sure, did you have to like do any extra like training under people or stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Um, there's schools, they travel around. They usually do seminars.
Okay.
I know, like, obviously during COVID and post COVID, it's kind of changed. I've done Minute Medicine Man, which he's out of, and I did Fight Business Academy, those two ones, and then just constant practice.
Hmm.
Good thing is like practicing on my kids, because kids don't stand still. Like, get a pro fighter, even a real like good amateur or anything, they're good at standing still for wrapping their hands. Kids are constantly moving. So I'm
Hmm.
like, if you can get the kid, getting somebody to stand still gets real easy.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't hard training. Like I said, a lot of it is independent practice. They kind of show you the techniques, and
Hmm.
it's up to you to kind of build on that, from there. And it's a lot of intuition. You know that minute in between rounds, that's a fast minute when
Yeah.
you're in there. And you know especially if it's a close like grappling match, I'm like, somebody's bleeding, I can't see where. And so you got to get in there, assessed, and treat, and you got about 45 seconds total. And
Wow.
that's if everything goes great. Sometimes guys get upset, if they're having a bad round. Usually if they're having a bad round, that's when I'm the busiest.
Hmm.
And they don't want to get up right away, or they don't want to get to the seat. They want to, get upset, and which is understandable.
Hmm.
Getting punched sucks. I don't care what anybody says. Getting hit in the face hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, God's bless these guys for, one of the referees, it might have been Al, made a reference that it's like, there's something wrong with us where we do this. Most people spend their whole lives avoiding.
There we go. You there?
Yeah, I lost you there. I don't know
Okay.
which one of us it was. So
I think it was me. I always have horrible internet. I blame the
it
city.
happens. Yeah, you're out. What, Havasu?
Yeah, like Havasu City, we have just absolutely atrocious internet. But we finally got Allo Communications out here, so that's supposed to like really kick it up. Ugh. But anyways, back to what you're saying.
Where were we at? Talking about the in between rounds, the
Yeah.
yeah, that minute goes fast. Like I said, you gotta kind of assess, get I don't know, for lack of a better term, control of the fighter, and
Hmm.
see what damage is going to be the most likely to stop the fight. You can't always treat all damage.
Hmm.
Um, and so you got to see, like, you start to learn, over time, like, okay, cuts here, and especially when you work with the same doctors, you kind of know
Hmm.
what the doctor is looking for.
Yeah.
Cuts here, spilling here. Obviously, the big one is eyesight. If something blocks the eyesight, we've all seen it. If a fighter says, "Hey, I can't see out of my eye," they wave it off. That's it. There's no
Mhm.
going back from there, and it happens a lot. And so we try to prevent that, anything that's going to cause the doctor to stop the fight is our main focus.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think you're also saying something like Al, he was saying like most people, they spend their
Yeah,
whole lives like avoiding getting hit. But yeah, our guys, they go in the cage, they're looking to get hit. Well,
yeah.
primarily hit and not get hit, but casualty of war, no matter what, they're
It's
gonna
you're
take
gonna
it.
get hit. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the way it is. No matter how good you are, at some point you're gonna get hit. And
Hmm.
yeah. And they're just like, hey, when can I come back and do this again?